Leaving God, produced in 2017, is John's first film. Accepted in multiple film festivals, it was awarded Best First Film by the Hollywood International Documentary Film Festival. John.
Thank you, Carrie. Thanks for the introduction and welcome, everyone. Looks like we have a question from Ted. Are you there, Ted?
Yes, I am. How are you, John?
Hey, Ted. How you doing?
I'm doing very well. It's been a while.
Yes.
First of all, I am profoundly impacted by this film. I thought this is brilliant. It is brilliant.
Thank you.
A question up front, which is you chose to use the word programming in terms of what other people might call my religious upbringing. And I'm just interested in the perspective that you used that term.
Well, that's just my interpretation of my experience growing up. I mean, from my earliest memories, I was thrown into catechism classes. I guess they started when I was, I don't know, 6, 7 years old, I'm thinking. And very strictly required to memorize all this stuff. So I don't really know any better way to refer to it than programming.
I appreciate that perspective. Perhaps one other thing that has struck me is, in effect, there is this discussion about tribalism and the notion of where the parallels to our experience at this current moment about what people worship. And I just have a feeling that there's sort of an aching sense of people's disconnection from their meaning in the universe that causes them to seek certain ways of connecting. And I'd just be interested on your perspective on that.
I mean, everyone, I think, wants to try to find meaning in life. It's just that not everyone chooses to come up with the same ways of getting answers to those questions. So I think especially now, people are asking that question, and everyone has to come up with their own path and their own answers. I don't mean to suggest by making this film that I have all the answers or I think anyone should follow my path. We all have our own path and journey, and I respect everyone's path and journey. Let's see, I see James. James, are you there?
Yes, hi. Hi, John. Jim here.
Hi, Jim.
So great to see you. Thank you so much. Wonderful to see this again. Thank you so much. How has your film been received?
I was pleasantly surprised that the overwhelming majority of feedback I got was positive. And I was surprised when it got picked up by a website called Top Documentary Films. And shortly thereafter started getting thousands and thousands of views from around the world. And as Carrie said, it's now up to about 33,000 people from 98 countries. So never imagined that when I created it. Thanks for your question, Jim. We'll continue. Hi, Pam.
Hello there. I was the editor-in-chief of American Atheist magazine for 9 years, and it would have really been a delight to have interviewed you, but I'm just glad to have seen your film anyway. I had a similar spiritual path as you, as I was raised Catholic, and then I went to an Episcopal church before dumping the whole thing. And I just wondered, what was it for you that you wanted? You knew that the Catholic tradition wasn't the place for you, but you still decided that Christianity and God was the place for you, and so you chose this. You chose the other church that you went to for several years.
When I was on my own, I wasn't really attending any churches. I certainly wasn't attending any Catholic churches. But what I was doing was flipping channels on Sunday morning. And I started watching and really enjoying one minister in particular, Robert Schuller. I don't know if anyone remembers him. He was broadcasting out of Southern
The Crystal
California.
Cathedral.
Yeah, exactly. He had a lot of personality. He was very upbeat. He had a great sense of humor. He was very positive. When one of the other ministers after Robert Schuller I stumbled on, who was also on TV, was Norman Vincent Peale, who was broadcasting out of a place called the Marble Collegiate Church in New York City. And as soon as I moved to New York, I checked out the Marble Collegiate Church and found out that they had this great coffee hour and the singles group and all kinds of programs and activities in addition to the sermons, which I also enjoyed. So that's what got me involved with Marble. You know, when I moved to New York, I knew no one. So to have a place I could go, a coffee hour where I could get to meet some new friends and get to see them on a weekly basis was exactly what I needed. Let's see. So let's continue with a question. We have Kay. Kay, are you there?
Yes, I am. And I do have a question that has nothing to do with religion or spirituality per se. What I noticed in the film, and something that you just mentioned as well, is that the camaraderie and the social hours and the connection with other people was very significant in your attraction to the church that you selected and attended for so long. When you left and you no longer had that church-based connection, did you find some substitute? Because I've never found anything like that without a religious connection other than Al-Anon.
I really didn't find anything to replace it. And I really missed the camaraderie of that. I was living in New York, and I think I made some attempts to find other groups. Really, there was nothing that compared to going to a coffee hour where you'd see a group of friends and hang out. And it was a tough transition, as Mike Ows, that minister, said. With him, he had a very similar experience. We are intense, as human beings, we are intensely tribal people. And I really was not able to find anything that compared to that.
John, before you go on to the next one, there was a question that came in from Mac. He doesn't have a microphone, and it's a follow-up kind of to what Kay's question is. Curious regarding the young man who dragged you back to the Coffee Bagels event for younger folks. Did the two of you ever have any follow-up conversation about your worldview and or his reaction to your question regarding truth? If so, what?
No, that's a good question. You know, I I was dragged to that Bagels and Bibles. So I really, even before I got the letter, I had no intention of going back to another one, nor did I really feel inspired to even step a foot into Marble Church at a coffee hour, as much as I kind of missed it. So the answer is no. I never saw him again or had any conversation with anyone from that event. Hello.
I was wondering what the response was or has been to your film from your friends at the Marble Church. Were they also as disillusioned with the church? What paths have your paths crossed since then again?
I've offered the film to the few friends from Marble that I am still connected with. One in particular said, I don't really agree with you, but I enjoyed the film. And I don't know what he meant by agreeing with me, because all I was doing was talking about my personal experiences and observations. So I don't know what there is to agree or disagree with, but that's how we reacted. And one other woman, I couldn't even tell if she watched it. There are one or two friends that did watch it and said they liked it very much.
Hi,
Hello.
thank you for that movie. Yeah, you obviously have a lot of skill at creative communications between the ad campaign that you did for the church and then kind of, in a way, counter programming with your film. And I was just curious if you're working on anything else, maybe in support of humanism or in support of people examining their beliefs. Nothing?
Thanks for the question. I appreciate
Mhm.
the positive feedback. I don't know that I'll ever make another humanist or God-related documentary film again. This was just kind of a one-shot deal. I really enjoyed making it. I love the creative process and the experience of storytelling. I have changed my creative filmmaking focus to something a little bit more lighthearted, a series called True Stories in Advertising, about my wild and crazy experiences in the advertising business over the course of about 25 years. I think that is actually on YouTube as well. So if you type in True Stories in Advertising, I think you can find it there.
We have Elijah, then Ed, and then Laura.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep.
Oh, cool. How would, say, you engage with someone who would say, oh, it's like the secularists, like they can't feel the kind of joy that a Christian feels or some religious person feels because, oh, it's just emotion and there's like there's nothing bigger behind that. It's just like something lesser than. How would you approach that?
And I'd say they're wrong. Ed, where are you calling
Yeah.
from, Ed? Where are you calling from, Ed?
I'm in East Longmeadow, Massachusetts. So the question is did you ever consider Unitarian Universalism as a religion?
Checked it out a couple of times. Met some very nice people. Wasn't really motivated to continuing to go there. But I kind of like the vibe and the message behind Unitarian Church. And so who's next, Paul?
Laura's next, and then it'll be Stefan and then Joan.
Okay. Hey, Laura.
Hi, John. So I'm curious as to why Marble Collegiate wouldn't have created a separate group for the over 40s people rather than just kicking that age group out completely. I found that kind of interesting. And also, I have a second question, which is, do you consider yourself a spiritual, if not religious person? Because I always find it kind of interesting that some of us who consider, who are atheists, I guess you haven't identified yourself as being atheist specifically, still would identify themselves as being spiritual. And I never quite understand what that means for them. But anyway.
The answer to your first question is they did have another group for people 40 and above. And when I remember when I was about 38 or 39, I did dip a toe in that group and realized that the average age in the group was about 64. So very nice people. Didn't feel real motivated at 38 or 39 or 40 to start getting involved in that group, especially considering the fact that I had a 15-year history with the singles group. Wasn't real motivated to jump ship yet. And what's funny is a number of my friends who are about the same age said, oh, don't worry about it. If you're over 40, no one checks your ID before you come to events. And I said, yeah, well, give it a couple more years and maybe they will. But it was it was just a very strange vibe knowing that some people got the tap on the shoulder who were over 40s were people like me. I was attending the singles group well into my 40s. And maybe because I was doing the church ad campaign, no one had the balls to tell me to leave. What I call myself, I don't like labels. It used to be cool to call yourself a spiritual person. And that, I guess, years ago, that meant more to me to be at least perceived that way than it does now. I'm not sure what that means. I'd rather be called a good person. I know what that means. So that's what I focus on. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, we have Stefan and then Joan, then David.
Hi, Stefan.
Hi, thank you for such a thoughtful and honest film. It was really interesting to watch. It seems like you studied extensively in and out of the church. I was wondering, what do you think about the Jesus of the Bible? Do you think he existed or not?
Maybe, probably. I don't know. I mean, a lot of people seem to think he did, and I don't know how accurate the records are from back then, but I think there's a very good chance he did. Who's next, Paul?
Joan.
Joan.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, where are you calling from, Joan?
I'm calling from Tennessee.
Hi.
Hi. I'm wondering if you have ever explored deep connections with the natural world. I have discovered that I, like everybody, need connections, but I've developed connections with the forest, with trees and other natural things, so that this overarching religion and human related things aren't really an issue for me when I am in the woods, basically. I've hiked the Appalachian Trail and the Pacific Crest Trail, and I connect deeply with the natural world. So where are you there with the natural world?
I can definitely identify with that. In the film, you noticed I referenced my walks in the woods and the rock that I sit on, and I find great peace of mind and solace being in nature. I've been less interested in trying to find a traditional church, and that for me has been replaced by other things, certainly including, as you just mentioned, being out in nature. So thank you for bringing that up. Who's next? Sam, are you there?
Hey, John. Hello from Eugene, Oregon. Can you hear me okay?
Wow, I think you get the award for furthest away from Connecticut.
Hey, great, great. I just wanted to say thank you so much for putting this film out. I was really impressed by it, especially I think one of the greatest things about documentaries like this, it sort of asks one to reflect about situations such as 9/11. When you, in the film, when you said, you know, everyone probably knows where they are when they receive the news of the Twin Towers. And I thought about that while I was watching the film, and then looking back, John, I was thinking to myself, man, how immediately I went to prayer, almost like I detached myself from this like shared experience with the world and with the country. And then looking back at that now, I wish I didn't go too quickly to prayer and went directly to how I can help other people or friends and family. Oh, so I just wanted to say that that's how important this documentary is, and also for the that moment when you walked into the room when your friend or when that guy said, "Yeah, this is an event, and there's going to be people there that have been impacted by." That your ad media, I could just was thinking to myself, wow, I was wondering how you were feeling when you walked into that room. So that's one question that I have, and the other one is for someone who is interested in creating a project like this. For me, it's in book form, it's in text form. What advice can you give me as to sort of not lose the focus because of guilt? I grew up Catholic as well, so when I'm working on a project like this, I'm currently working on a project like this, guilt comes in, and I think it's just a byproduct of religion. So just advice from that too as well, John. Thank you.
Okay, well, first question was, how did I feel when I walked into the room? I wasn't introduced as the guy behind the ad campaign, even though my friend, who was very young and enthusiastic, and really wanting me to go there, had some vision of me being introduced as the ad guy. I don't know. I just, like everyone, I went in there and grabbed a bagel and took my seat. So your next question was, what advice would I give to you as a who grew up Catholic and is now working on some written piece that addresses some similar themes to my film, and the guilt that you have with it? Well, maybe you're not ready to do it then. You know, I would, you know, I had no such feelings when I made my film. So I was, I guess, much further as an ex-Catholic, much further beyond where you seem to be if you're still experiencing a lot of guilt. You just have to go with your feeling, you know, if the feeling to write is there, you're right. If it's not there or it doesn't feel exactly right, then maybe you're not ready. That's what I would say. Who's next, Paul?
Kanita.
Hi.
Kanita, where are you from?
Bay Area, California, Silicon Valley.
Welcome.
Thank you. Now, I have an aunt who keeps believing, I mean, she's not active, she doesn't go to church, but she feels like she has to keep believing in God because she can't bear to think that she won't see my grandmother and all my other relatives when she dies. And that seems like a sort of weak sauce as far as belief. But I don't know, she's over 70, she's not politically active. Is there any harm in letting her continue with this delusion, or should I actually try to see if I can get her to see what's true?
I am not a psychologist or a therapist or any kind of expert in that area. So as much as I hear your angst, and I appreciate, you know, you're trying to address it, that's something only you know, you can try to figure out. I'm sorry, it's not something I could really address or feel comfortable addressing. I hope you don't mind. Do you have any questions? I don't know if you're still there. If you are, do you have any questions about the film? If you're not there, Paul will go to the next.
Okay, so before we go, we're going to go to Sam, but before we do that, I just want to ask one question that came in through the Q&A. This is from Kitty, who had the microphone problem.
Okay.
She wanted to know that since the major religions are run mostly by males, do you have any theories on why so many women participate in a religion that renders them second-class citizens?
Ask women. You know, ask women who you think are in that position and see what they say. That's what I would suggest. I can't answer that question. I have no idea. It's a good question, actually. It's a very good question. Thank you for bringing that up. I just, why would women do that? I guess that's the way they were raised. I think that's what I would assume. They were raised in that religion. They feel that that's the way it is. And, you know, they feel obligated to continue to participate. That would be my guess, but ask them would be my answer. Who's next, Paul?
We have Andrew, and then we have Larry.
Andrew, where are you from?
I'm from Norwalk, John. Good to see you, man. Love the T-shirt. You know, you're
probably the only one that knows what this T-shirt means, Andrew.
You know, if you put like a separated at birth sort of side-by-side picture of John Follis and Pete Townshend, you know, with the except your guitar's in one piece. Pete's would be smooth by now. But Pete, you know, Pete wrote an opera, a rock opera called Tommy, about leaving religion, you know, leaving the church, leaving the temple. Messiah's pointed to the door. You know, you've been told many times before, but nobody had the guts to leave the temple.
Wow. You know something, I never really realized that, but now that you kind of reference the lyrics, that's really interesting.
But anyway, I'm not going to ask you, you already said you're not going to be doing any more sort of rock operas or documentaries in this area. I was just thinking, like I was thinking about Tommy, and thinking about the film, and, you were leaving the temple, you were leaving the religion, but there's a lot of people that don't leave the religion, and I think that includes Jesus Christ himself. If you think back, to the temple and the scourging, when he was there, and they were all engaged in these corrupt activities and so on. And he was the biggest anti-church radical revolutionary, was he not? According to what I was taught in Catholic school. By the way, I'm Catholic too. And that was one of the most appealing things, about Jesus, was his rebellion against the church, the Pharisees, all of that stuff, right? We all know the story.
Yeah.
And so my question to you then is, what about those people who, in that spirit, remain within the church, who maintain their belief in God? By the way, I don't believe in God, but I don't think that's really the point. The point is, they want to, within that church, rather than leaving it, do something about it for the people who are still there with them. So I don't know, that's it. I mean, what do you say to those people? Be it, people from liberation theology. I don't even know if that's still going. That was, when I was, or, the liberal tendencies in the American church, the Catholic church.
Andrew, as I may have said earlier, I don't, my job is not to change anyone's belief system if it's working for them. I don't, as long as they don't screw around with my life, I don't really care what people do. When it gets into government and lawmaking, that's a different story. But if someone is just doing their own thing and they believe in evangelicalism or Satanism, and that makes them happy, and they're not messing up other people's lives, that's fine with me. I don't really care. So hope that answers your question. I don't know if you're still there, if we have a new question.
We have Larry, then I got a couple from the chat, and then we have Daryl and Fred after that.
Okay, Larry, where are you
Hi.
from, Larry?
Piscataway, New Jersey. Do you find yourself decorating a tree just to sort of do it, or to be in the spirit of the times, or do you shun everything?
I like pretty things. I like Christmas decorations. Is that your question?
Yeah, I think there was.
Okay.
Yeah. We have a few more in the queue. That's going to be Daryl and Fred. But before I get to them, this is a kind of a long question. Person was wondering, first of all, he admires that you went out and did the film. And he was wondering whether or not, if you've ever seriously prayed to God and asked him to come into your life. And can you tell us a little bit about that? And finally, the same person has asked if John feels like his life is better and more meaningful now than when he was with religion.
Answer to the first question is yes. I have prayed and asked him to come into my life. And the second question, do I feel my life is more meaningful now?
Or it's better. He didn't say meaningful, it says better.
Oh, is it better?
Yeah. And more meaningful, both. He put both in there.
That's a very interesting question. What is a meaningful life? I think we could spend a whole nother couple of hours just trying to answer that question. What is the definition of a meaningful life? So I guess the answer is no, I don't feel any more or less meaningful my life is any more or less meaningful than it did, when I was involved with any various stages of my religious perspective. Do I think it's better? In some ways, yes. In some ways, no. I mean, there was a comfort, you know, kind of like when I believed in Santa Claus. There was something exciting every Christmas when you think that um, some guy is going to give you all these presents, and then you find out that's no longer true. You know, it's kind of a bummer. So, in that sense, you know, I felt kind of a sense of loss that I don't really believe that um, my praying is going to make any difference in anything. Um, I, you know, I used to pray that the Giants would win the football games, and it didn't seem to help at all. So that's why I feel it's not so better, because I kind of miss the sense that there's a certain comfort if there's someone really cares about you and has your well-being, and when you're in your darkest moments, you can pray and have the belief that you're being listened to and cared for, and that things are going to be better because you've prayed about it and all that stuff. There is certainly a comfort that comes with believing that. But there's also a comfort that, in my opinion, comes from knowing the facts and knowing the truth. And in my opinion, a lot of the stuff related to what I just said is not factual, cannot be proven as not true. And I think as hard as the truth can be, oftentimes, just like, you know, if you find out, you know, the girl you've been dating really isn't into you, even though it hurts to find that out, it's kind of better to know it. So that's kind of that's kind of what I feel about you know, coming to where I am right now and believing the things, or not believing the things, you know, now. I hope that answered the question.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll hope it does. We have Daryl, and then Fred is the last person we have in the queue, John.
Okay, Daryl Ray, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great. John, I just thought I'd call in and say hi and let everybody know we at Recovering from Religion love that movie, and we pump it out as often as we can to our chat line.
Appreciate that.
And the second thing is that John has actually helped us by doing a little pro bono consulting and giving us some good advice. So anyway, thank you. And my last point is, John, prayer does work. We have proof right here in Kansas City where I live. Kansas City Chiefs won the Super Bowl. Anyway, thank you for all you do. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Dale. Appreciate the comments. Thank you.
So then you have Fred for our, we have Fred, and then it looks like Eileen has one last question. So
I very much resonated with and enjoyed your movie, and it's interesting that your advertising campaign probably, who knows, probably increased the size of your congregation tenfold, and then they threw you out of heaven. And that felt to me very ironic and sad, and that now you have no malice. And when you walked into the donuts and coffee, or the bagels and coffee thing, and you asked, is that true? That is something Jesus would have done, or Jesus is documented as having done, to the Pharisees. I find these parallels very compelling. And my question is your sense of community being fulfilled now through the humanist groups?
This is very fulfilling right now, and this is in association with the HFFC group. Marble Church was a very unique experience. It was a different time. It was a different place. I was single for the most part in my 20s. You'd see the same friends and people there week after week. It was easy to get to. It was about a 5-minute bike ride from where I lived. And so that's hard to replicate now with anything, quite honestly. So I guess the answer is really no. You know, I haven't really done anything that kind of replicates that tribe the way I experienced it back then with Marble Church. I know we have a couple more questions here I want to get to before it gets too late. So thank you for the question. And who do we have next, Paul?
The last one is from Eileen.
Okay.
Hi, can you hear me all right?
Yes, Eileen, where are you calling from?
East Hartford, Connecticut.
Welcome.
And I was born in 1950, so I can really relate to all the stuff that you said, and I was a Catholic. How long did it take you to make this film?
You want to guess?
I'll say 5 years.
3 months.
Woo! Holy crow. Wow.
3 months.
Wow, you did great. Holy.
But I have to tell you, once I started, I was obsessed. I was working all day and night on it.
But I wanted to ask you, did you find love?
Yes. Not really related to the film, but happy to answer that question. Yes, I've been seeing a woman for about 11 years.
Oh, that's excellent. I became like a non-believer because my son was a non-believer. He was interested in physics, and he didn't believe, and eventually I don't believe. But I never told my father. My mother was already dead. I never told my father, and I was just curious. Have you ever mentioned this to your parents? Are they still alive? Do they know that? No.
No, I'm 66. Although my sisters, I have 2 sisters. I think they're very intrigued by my film. They don't have the same perspective I do. My older sister's pretty hardcore Catholic. Like I say, I'm not trying to change her mind. I don't want to get into an uncomfortable discussion with her. And I hope that answers your question. Paul, is that it?
I think so. Robert had his hand raised.
Yeah. My wife is here. We went to the Marble Collegiate Church, and we were actually married there. And
I was on the retreat with you, John.
Who's that?
Sorry, Jean. Jean Taylor.
I was in your photo.
Oh, you're kidding me.
You were one of the cool guys.
The key word in that phrase was "were" one of the cool guys.
No, we were wondering about the residuals for, but thank you very much for bringing, movie stardom and a little bit to our family. We're very grateful for that. I too was a little bit miffed after that rather sanctimonious lecture he gave us about the sanctity of marriage, and 4 months later he was divorced.
How funny.
Could I ask you a question about the movie, about the documentary?
But also, do you remember, listen, Donald Trump is claiming that he was a member of the Marble Collegiate Church and so influenced by Norman Vincent Peale. I never saw him there. Did you?
I didn't, but friends of mine did.
It filled a void because I also was, a single person that moved there from a little town in Pennsylvania to New York City. I worked for Sesame Street, and Marble Collegiate Church provided that the home and the social support. Yeah, the social support for the loneliness that you feel when you move to New York City.
Absolutely.
But it was always the unwritten law in that group that if you hit 40, you're out of the 20-30 group. Terrible, but that was there. That absolutely was there.
And what surprised me is that here is the minister commissioning me to figure out how to spend $150,000 over a 3-month period to try to get more people to come specifically to the connection, because the campaign was targeting younger people.
Right.
As people from the connection are walking not just out of the connection, but walking out of the church. And as I pointed out in the film, these are people who are in the prime of their careers, that if he kept them happy, probably would have made their annual contributions to the church. And it made no sense. And I didn't understand when I thought maybe he just didn't realize what was going on because he was, too far above everything to know what was happening in the connection. And I just didn't understand when I brought it to his attention in a very thoughtful letter that it was just totally dismissed. It made no sense to me.
No, I just want to say I thought it was a fabulous job on doing this documentary. I assume it's mainly a one-man effort.
Totally, not just mainly, totally.
Totally, yeah.
Yes.
Can I ask you, because I'm so impressed that the length and depth of it. Of course, you're a filmmaker of short films, but often with large budgets, short as they may be in the advertising world. What was your budget to make this?
The budget, I think, was $38.75 because I had to pay for the graphic of Jesus Christ, the stained glass image. And I bought a couple of Beatles songs on iTunes. So that was my total budget.
Brilliant. You did it wonderful. Brilliant.
Oh, man, that gives me hope. It really does. Oh.
Again, thanks for the feedback. I don't know if you're still on the feed, but appreciate the comments. Paul?
We're all done. Great job, John.
So I want to thank all those who helped publicize the event, and especially thank you to John Follis for your excellent presentation and discussion.